Greetings, you sexy bastards. I got another thoughts on the nature of God and reality video. Today, or this evening, I would like to discuss hopefully a short topic. The last one I just did went on for like 20 minutes. You do not always have to learn from your mistakes. Crazy, right? Everybody's like, you gotta make mistakes, you gotta fail, you gotta do this and do that, and then that's how you learn and you grow. And it's like, look, fair enough, you're gonna fuck up in life. That's a fact. We all know it, we can all accept it, we can all figure out ways to journal and record our mistakes and think about them in such a way that we actually extract valuable insights instead of further distorting our understanding of reality by overanalyzing our mistakes or misattributing the things that led to these mistakes to the factors that are maybe unrelated, out of our control, so on and so forth, or trying to overestimate the factors that are within our control. But this is what I'm trying to talk about right now. What I'm trying to talk about right now is that you don't always have to learn from your mistakes. You don't always have to make those mistakes to start with, really. I think you can learn, obviously, we all know we can learn from our successes, but I think recently I got into this mindset where I felt called by the Holy Spirit, God, the rustle of the morning stars, Socrates, Damon, the gut feeling, whatever you want to call it. This guiding spirit called me to not do certain things, and in some cases to do certain things. But for the most part, it was like, hey man, don't ChatGPT your discussion responses for your cognitive science class. And I was like, fine. Well, actually, I wasn't like that. I was like, but how about I do? And then I did. And it was like, how about you pay for your movie tickets instead of just walking in and sitting down at a theater? Which surprised me that you can just walk in, grab popcorn, no one is going to say anything. Don't do it though, it's not good, it's stealing bad. But I ignored these things. And I think I suffered in the long run as a result of doing so. And I learned from these mistakes by recently going on this wilderness adventure with my church, and we discussed compromise, and we looked at our values and we said, hey man, we all have certain values, and a lot of these values are laid out and described by the Bible. These values are universal to mankind. They exist somewhere in our subconscious, and Carl Jung talks about these things, so I found this compelling. And then we talked about how when we don't want to live in accordance with these values, when living in accordance with these values is inconvenient or just sucks for some reason or another, we don't want to do it. So instead of just not doing it and admitting that we're fucking up and we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing, we come up with reasons and rationalizations to make us feel okay about jeopardizing our sense of virtue, or jeopardizing our character, jeopardizing our integrity, living in a way that betrays our principles. So I was thinking about this. I was like, that sucks. I think I have these virtues, and I think there's this book I was reading recently, Becoming Who You Are, and I stopped reading it because I stopped finding it compelling. But the beginning I did find very compelling. It was talking about how a significant part of our happiness is dependent on us acting in a way that we see as admirable. When we live in accordance with our values, we perceive ourselves in a way that makes us respect ourselves and say hey man, this guy's cool. Whether others see that or not doesn't matter so much. What matters is that we're seeing it. And when we don't live that way, our happiness, our sense of self-worth, our overall emotional and mental well-being, our spiritual well-being suffers for that. And essentially the idea of this retreat is, look, your spiritual well-being is not worth betraying your values. And Carl Jung talks about this to some extent, but a lot of mental illness comes from us betraying our values, and so we look for drugs and alcohol. Well, drugs, the pharmacies and the big pharma give us the drugs to do this. We look for escape from these feelings that come as a result of us betraying our values and living in a way that is not virtuous. This isn't what all mental illness comes from, for sure, but this is where some of it comes from. And I think this is why we have such a mentally ill society right now, is because we've become complacent in acting in a way that is not virtuous, and we've rationalized and justified, and in some cases started to see things that do not align with the moral nature of mankind. We've come to see these things as righteous, which is all wrong, and then we act in these ways and we experience spiritual turmoil and distress, and then we run to drugs and alcohol to save our souls. But those things cannot save our souls. Instead, they drown our souls in dopamine. But I digress, I think. What the hell was I talking about? You don't always have to learn from your mistakes. Sometimes you can just do the right things even though you don't know why. So in these cases where we are compromising our values, oftentimes or sometimes when we're listening to the callings of the Spirit, we don't know why the guiding Spirit is calling us to do something, but it's calling us to do this thing. And maybe we can't justify it, maybe we can't rationalize it, but if we don't want to do that thing, we can convince ourselves that's the wrong thing to do, and we can rationalize a way to do the thing that we want to do, whether that's get free movie tickets or not do all of my homework. We come up with rationalizations to avoid these things, and as a byproduct, I've lost my train of thought. 1 second. Your mistakes, you can do the right things, even though, and as a byproduct, we suffer spiritually. However, if we just listen to that damn inner voice, that damn inner guide, then we could just do the right things. And then instead of later being able to look back and rationally understand, this is why the inner guide, this is why that Spirit was guiding me to do X, Y, or Z. Instead, we could just not make those mistakes and then learn from those mistakes later by reflecting on those mistakes. We could instead just follow the guiding Spirit, not make those mistakes, instead make good decisions, even though we don't know why we're making those good decisions. We don't even know why they're good. Sometimes it seems bad, but it's like, shit, man, the guiding Spirit is calling me to do this. And of course, how you actually differentiate between the guiding Spirit and the violent thoughts of the mind is a whole other topic. But if we can listen to that guiding Spirit, then we could have successes, and then maybe months down the road, there are two things that could happen. One is we don't even have to learn any principles, learn anything about the nature of reality or the nature of morality. We don't have to learn anything. We just made the right decision, got the rewards, experienced the rewards, experienced a better life, and then forgot it even ever happened. Or we look back and we go, oh shit, that's why I was being called to do this. That's why that was the right thing to do. That's why I was feeling disturbance when I thought about not doing it. And then we don't have to make these mistakes. We don't have to learn from them. We don't have to look back, reflect, create a new set of principles, make sure we live in accordance with these principles and have an ever-expanding list of fucking principles that we have to listen to. Instead, we can just trust the damn guy inside that's telling us what to do. This is much better than coming to a rational understanding of why you did was a mistake. I believe that is all. I was hoping this would be like a 2 or 3 minute video, but I guess I am not capable of doing 2-minute videos. But that's okay. You can gain clarity after doing what is right instead of gaining clarity due to experiencing the consequences of your actions. I guess my last point is, I went through this phase where I felt this feeling of like, I've got to learn some new lessons in life. And I knew I was making mistakes and I wasn't listening to that voice. And I frankly wasn't sure what the mistakes were. And I was like, I just have to wait until I reflect and then I learn what I'm doing wrong. But instead I could have just like not been doing things wrong. I could have just been trusting and listening to that voice. Now, listening to the voice is a very complicated topic. How you discern what the voice is, how you hear it, how you enter a state where you are close to it, that's a whole other conversation. And I'll talk about that elsewhere. So, yep, that's all. We're going to end at 10 minutes exactly. Farewell.